If desperation had a smell, it would be stale coffee and sweat. I'd been sitting in this cabin for weeks, drowning in overdue bills and rejection emails. When my old man left me this place in the middle of nowhere, I thought it would be a fresh start. Turns out, there's no starting over when you're flat broke with no job. That's how I found myself on the dark web. I'd heard rumors about it. Red rooms, illegal trades, untraceable mercenaries for hire. I wasn't stupid enough to go looking for that stuff, but I'd read that sometimes people posted odd jobs there, the kind you wouldn't find on Craigslist. And if you didn't ask questions, the pay was supposed to be good. I stumbled on the job listing in a forum titled Easy Money, Remote Tasks Must Follow Instructions. It had been posted an hour earlier. The text was simple. We're looking for participants to complete a series of tasks. It must be done in a quiet, isolated location. You will be paid $2,000 per task, with a $10,000 bonus for completing all three. Email us to apply. I don't know what prompted me to send that email. Maybe it was the rent notice sitting on the counter or the echo of my failure bouncing off the cabin walls. Within minutes, I got a reply. Congratulations. You've been accepted. The rules are simple. 1. Follow the task instructions exactly. 2. Do not skip steps. 3. Do not share this with anyone. Failure to follow these rules will result in forfeiture of payment and additional consequences. Your first task will arrive at midnight. Keep your phone on. I stared at the screen. No signatures, no contact info, and nothing to suggest who was running this. A smart person would have deleted the email right then, but $2,000 for one night's work? I couldn't afford to walk away. Midnight came fast. My phone buzzed. Task 1. Go outside. Stand 10 feet from your front door and face the woods. Do not turn around, no matter what you hear, for 5 minutes. Reply with done when complete. I laughed out loud. That was it? The easiest 2,000 of my life. The cabin was surrounded by dense forest, pitch black at night, but I'd spent enough time here to not be spooked by the dark. Still, as I stepped outside into the freezing air, unease started to creep in. The woods looked different. The trees seemed taller and thicker, like they were leaning toward me. I shook it off and counted my steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. I faced the woods and started the timer on my phone. The first minute was uneventful. Crickets chirped. The wind rustled through the leaves. My breath formed clouds in the cold air. Easy money. Then, somewhere behind me, I heard footsteps. They weren't cautious, like an animal's. These were heavy, deliberate, crunching the gravel just outside my door. I gritted my teeth and kept my eyes on the trees. Do not turn around. The footsteps stopped, replaced by breathing. Wet, raspy, and far too close. It wasn't the wind. It couldn't be the wind. My skin prickled, but I clenched my fists and stared ahead. 2 minutes left. Hey, it wasn't a voice I recognized. Low and guttural, like someone choking on gravel. It came from directly behind me. Turn around. I squeezed my eyes shut. My heart pounded in my chest. It had to be a prank. Someone messing with me, but no one knew I was here. 1 minute left. The voice laughed, deep and guttural, like it was inside my head now. They always turn around. I almost did. The urge was overwhelming, like a hand on my shoulder forcing me to twist. My knees buckled, but I stayed rooted in place, whispering the seconds under my breath. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The breathing stopped. I opened my eyes to the timer beeping on my phone and sprinted inside, slamming the door shut behind me. With shaking hands, I typed done and sent it. My phone buzzed immediately. Good job. Payment sent. Task 2 will arrive tomorrow at midnight. Remember the rules. I checked my account. 2,000, just like they promised, but no amount of money could shake the feeling that I hadn't been alone out there. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that voice. They always turn around. It played in my head on a loop, as if daring me to second guess what I'd heard. By morning, I convinced myself it had been my imagination. I mean, paranoia does weird things to your brain, right? Besides, the 2,000 sitting in my bank account had a way of calming me down. Maybe task 2 would be even easier. I spent the day pacing the cabin, checking the locks on the doors and windows more times than I'd care to admit. I didn't know what I was expecting. I was miles from the nearest town, surrounded by nothing but trees. If someone had been out there last night, there was no way they'd stuck around, right? Midnight rolled around, and my phone buzzed. I jumped so hard that I nearly dropped it. The message glowed on my screen. Task 2. Retrieve the black box buried beneath the rock 50 feet east of your cabin. Bring it inside. Do not open it. Reply done when complete. A black box. What kind of box? And why was it buried out there in the first place? I stared at the message, my stomach knotting up. The job wasn't as easy as it seemed anymore. But 10,000 was on the line. I grabbed my flashlight and a rusty old shovel from the shed. The air was colder than the night before, sharp and biting against my skin. The woods were silent now, like the trees were holding their breath. I counted my steps eastward. 48, 49, 50. My beam of light swept the ground until it landed on a large, flat rock, just where they said it would be. I hesitated before digging. There was no way I was the first person they'd sent here. Who buried the box, and what was inside it? I shook the questions out of my head and jammed the shovel into the dirt. The ground was frozen, hard as stone, and every scrape of the shovel sent chills down my spine. After what felt like hours, the shovel hit something solid, a box. It was about the size of a shoebox, wrapped in black electrical tape. Dirt clung to the edges, but the tape was pristine, untouched. I picked it up, and instantly I felt wrong. The box was unnaturally cold, like it had been sitting in ice. Worse, it felt like it was vibrating. Not loudly, just a faint hum, like something alive was trapped inside, trying to get out. I wanted to drop it. Every fiber of my being screamed to leave it there and run back to the cabin. But the rules were clear. Retrieve the black box. Bring it inside. Do not open it. The moment I stepped back into the cabin, the humming stopped. Silence. I set the box on the kitchen table and stared at it, my breath fogging the air. What was inside it? I glanced at my phone. Just type done, I thought. Just send the message, and it's over. But the box, something about it felt wrong. I leaned closer, squinting at the tape. Was it moving? No, that was impossible. I shook my head, trying to snap myself out of it. But as I reached for my phone, a faint sound stopped me dead in my tracks. A whisper. It came from the box. I froze my hand inches from the table. The whisper was faint, like someone was pressing their lips to the other side of the tape, begging me to listen. It didn't make sense. My cabin was freezing, and the thing had been humming a second ago. How could there be a voice? I grabbed my phone and typed done. Before I could hit send, another whisper came, louder this time. Help me. I dropped my phone and stumbled back, my chest heaving. That voice wasn't raspy like the one last night. It sounded human. Please, it begged. Don't leave me in here. It hurts. My hands trembled. I stared at the box, my heart pounding. I wasn't supposed to open it. That was the rule. But every instinct in my body screamed to peel back the tape. I reached out slowly, my fingers brushing against the cold, slick tape, and then my phone buzzed again. Do not open the box. Final warning. I yanked my hand back like the box had burned me. My head whipped toward the window. I couldn't see anything but my reflection in the glass, but I swear I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. I grabbed my phone and sent done. The message went through instantly. Within seconds, I got another reply. Good job. Payment sent. Task 3 will arrive tomorrow at midnight. Remember the rules. I checked my account. Another 2,000. The sight of the money should have comforted me, but it didn't. Not this time. Because now, I was stuck with that box. I didn't sleep that night either. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard whispers. Faint at first, then louder, echoing through the cabin like the box was calling to me, begging me to break the rules. I locked it in the bedroom closet, but it didn't help. The whispers seeped through the walls. They weren't human anymore. They were twisted, guttural, wrong. The worst part? I started to recognize one of them. It was the same voice that spoke to me last night, outside my cabin. They always turn around, it whispered, laughing. By the time the third night rolled around, I was hanging on by a thread. I'd shoved a chair under the front door handle and lined the windows with whatever furniture I could move. None of it helped. The box hadn't moved from the closet, but I could feel it, pulsing like a second heartbeat in the cabin. The whispers had grown worse. They weren't just coming from the box anymore. They echoed from the walls, the floors, even the shadows. They didn't beg now. They mocked. Midnight came, and with it, the final task. My phone buzzed, the sound cutting through the silence like a blade. Task 3. Take the black box to the clearing 1 mile north of your cabin. Wait there until instructed. Follow the rules. This is your final task. My stomach turned. A mile north meant plunging deeper into the woods, away from the cabin's thin sense of safety. But 10,000, I needed it. I couldn't quit now. I grabbed the box from the closet, ignoring the way it seemed to shudder in my hands. The whispers were louder now, a chaotic jumble of voices, some sobbing, some laughing. My chest tightened with every step into the woods. The trees were so dense they blocked out the moonlight. My flashlight barely made a dent in the darkness. Every rustle, every crack of a twig sent my pulse racing. After what felt like hours, I stumbled into the clearing. It was circular and unnaturally empty, the ground bare except for a circle of stones at the center. The moment I stepped into the clearing, the whispers stopped. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I placed the box in the center of the circle and stepped back, waiting for further instructions. My phone buzzed. Final instruction. Open the box. I froze. Open the box? They'd been so clear about not opening it before. Why now? My phone buzzed again. You will not receive payment unless the box is opened. This is the final step. Do it now. I stared at the box, my breath fogging the air. The black tape glistened in the light of my flashlight, and for the first time I noticed something I hadn't before. Beneath the tape, the surface of the box wasn't wood or metal. It was flesh, pale, sickly flesh, marred with veins that pulsed faintly. I gagged, stumbling back, but my phone buzzed again. Open it now. I didn't have a choice. My hands shook as I peeled away the tape, layer by layer. The whispers started again, growing louder with every strip I removed. The final piece of tape fell away, and the lid popped open. The smell hit me first. Rot, blood, something ancient and wrong. I shone my flashlight into the box, and what I saw made my knees buckle. It was an eye, huge and bloodshot, filling the entire box, its pupil a deep, endless black. It blinked once, slowly, and then it looked at me. A sound erupted from the woods, screaming. Not human screams, but something primal, guttural, inhuman. The ground beneath me began to tremble, and I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. The eye blinked again, and this time I felt it in my head. Images flashed through my mind. People like me, standing in this same clearing, holding this same box. Some were screaming, others crying, all of them surrounded by shadowy figures with glowing eyes. And then I realized I wasn't alone. Shapes emerged from the darkness, surrounding the clearing. They were tall, thin, with limbs too long and faces that didn't make sense, like someone had tried to sculpt humans from memory and failed. Their eyes glowed faintly, the same deep black as the pupil in the box. One of them stepped forward, its head twitching unnaturally. It didn't speak, but I heard its voice in my head, a low, droning hum that made my ears ring. Payment received. Before I could react, the figures descended on me. Cold, spindly hands gripped my arms, legs, and neck. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The last thing I saw before they dragged me into the darkness was the box closing itself, the eye winking at me one final time. The next morning, the cabin sat empty, silent as the grave. Miles away, in a new thread on the dark web, a job listing appeared. Easy money, remote tasks must follow instructions. Beneath it was a single reply from the original poster. We always need more. Liked the story? Don't look over your shoulder. Just subscribe for more. I'll be waiting.